Hello, YouTubers. October 2015, October 6th. Well, 5th. Let me get my days right. Okay, right at the last day of Tabernacles. Of course, they added day. There's an 8th day for the last trumpets to sound, and that wraps up the fall feast. So all the feasts of the Lord, and these are not Jewish feasts, folks. It makes me cringe when I hear somebody say that. Nowhere in the scriptures does this, are they called a Jewish feast. They are called Feast of the Lord. So sometimes we need to be careful how far we distance ourselves from the Israelites, Israel, the Hebrews. You know, we are grafted in. Let's not forget that, folks. And I know it's the chic thing now to try to speak some Hebrew. You know, we use, instead of sabbatical, Shemitah. We use Yeshua instead of Jesus, Hamashiach, the Messiah, Yeshua Hamashiach, you know, Yahweh, Jehovah. Most of us can pronounce most of the months in Hebrew and that type of thing. But let me just bring to your attention, even though his name is Jehovah, it's Yahweh, El Shaddai, Adonai, the list goes on and on. When you pray, folks, try not to use those names. Those are his proper names. When you talk about him, it's fine to use them, but when you're talking to him, you know, I have children and grandchildren. You know, I'm Charles Holler, I'm Charles Henry Holler, I'm President Holler, I'm Mr. Holler, I'm Chuck. And any of those names that are mine, if my children or grandchildren used them, I don't think I would care for, you know, I'm Dad, I'm Papa, I'm Grandpa. So, when you pray, he's Father, he's Abba. Just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Okay, what's going on here, folks? Netanyahu, what a speech before the United Nations. And he didn't let us down. The United States, they dissed him. Kerry walked off, the U.S. ambassador walked off. And Netanyahu gave the silence that was heard around the year. Actually, when he was asked about it, and they said, so why were you silent for 45 seconds? He corrected them and said 44 seconds. Why would he do that? Why would he quibble over 1 second? Well, that was a direct reference to our 44th president. So, and as usual, the last 25 times that we've come against Israel, we receive a natural disaster. The worst was when we actually were responsible for helping remove one of the last Israelites from the Gaza Strip, and just within hours a whirlwind was formed off the coast of Florida. It turned into a hurricane called Katrina and wiped out an American city. What about this time? Well, it's another hurricane, and the media is describing it as 1 in 1,000 biblical proportion floods that we've never seen as a nation. And what's the name of the hurricane? In Hebrew, raised by Yahweh. So, anyway, folks, these are dark times. We're, you know, they will sing lamentations in heaven for all eternity about this great nation, the greatest nation ever raised up by the Lord to spread his gospel, and how it fell. Just like they will sing lamentations about the Jewish people crucifying the Messiah. It was a horrible event, and through all eternity there will be a time of lamentations when remembrance will be made of that event. And here's another one, because we turned our back on him. It's illegal to pray in school. It's illegal to give a Bible to the military. You know, 50 years ago, every soldier was given either a little New Testament or a little Quran or a little Hebrew Torah with the first page from our president. I hope the words here bring strength to you in this type of crisis, blah, blah, blah. Now it's illegal to give a Bible. It's going to be illegal to be a Christian soon, folks. Don't kid it. We saw an attack this week. 9 Christians slaughtered in Oregon. The guy was possessed. He walked up. Are you a Christian? Yes. Bam, right in the head. If they said no, they got shot in the arm or the leg. He intentionally targeted Christians. Are we going to do something about this? Why haven't we done something now? By now, you cannot just have that attitude that when they come and they take your neighbor, and because he's a Catholic, you say, well, at least I'm not a Catholic, they're not going to take me. And then they take your other neighbor, he's a Jew. Well, they're not a Jew, they're not going to take. And then eventually, who's there to stand up for you when they come for you? 65 million Christians in America. Now, folks, I spent over a decade associated with law enforcement, and particularly at an administrative level. And we were responsible for taking one of the state police agencies from the 30th paid police agency in the nation to number one, with the exception of Alaska. We did this in 36 months with lobbyists flexing an arm down at the legislature. I don't think you realize how powerful your word is. You've almost been convinced that, oh, one vote doesn't count. Yes, it does. And right now, we need to stand up and use the tools that have been given. What are you going to do when he comes back? Are you going to be occupying? But, that we're in the tribulation and it's almost over in the rapture. Yeah, but when he comes back, what are you doing when he comes? Are you occupying? Do something. Do you know 100 letters to a senator or a congressman is like them receiving 20,000 people standing up? Because only 100 out of every 20,000 will send a letter. When legislation is being passed on the floor and a senator or a congressman is teetering, you can get him to vote even against what he believes if he got a couple hundred letters. If you must send emails, at least 1,000 of them. Or if you must tweet. But if you can take time to write a letter, send a letter, look up who your congressman, who your senator is, and I'm going to dictate just a small version. Write a letter. Stand up. And send this video to other people so that they will write a letter and that they will stand up. You can still they must be in a back room laughing over this last same-sex marriage law, saying, if they only knew how easy it was to stop us. Come on, don't be sheeple. Step up, folks. You need to be proactive with this. You can't write a letter. We have a Republican House and a Republican Senate right now. You can make a difference here. You need to, the Supreme Court can't make a law. They can only rule on a law. The states have the power. Right now, it's against federal law to smoke marijuana, but look at what states have made it legal. Let's do the same thing with same-sex marriage. I got to give it to North Carolina. They had some insight. They passed a law ahead of time. 30 different magistrates in that state refused to marry same-sex couples and were protected by a local state law that says they didn't have to. Write a letter to your Congress. Let's start taking it back, folks. Something like this. Dear Honorable such and such, I come to you to ask you to either create or vote for legislation that protects the religious rights of those, whether in public life or in the cleric or in private business, who refuse for their own religious beliefs to honor the same-sex marriage because they believe marriage is between a man and a woman. Very simple, something like that. And if you write the letter and you have an email address, put it on there. It even gives more power to your letter that you didn't just flippantly send an email, that you took the time to write a letter, even though you could have just sent an email. Let's get proactive, folks. It's very easy to look up who your senator, who your congressman is. Write a letter. And then carbon copy the White House. Let them get flooded with the amount of people who are staying. Carbon copy the Supreme Court. Carbon copy 5 or 6 people and send them a copy of a letter. And this lets your congressman know, too, that you've sent this letter to, your local precinct committeeman, your local county committeeman, your local state president of the state legislature. Do a little homework. Do a little work. Occupy. I know this is way off the beaten path of my normal videos, but folks, well, Chuck, you said the tribulation started. Well, yes, I did. And I'll tell you another reason I said that, folks, and I know that some of you people are really dogmatic on a pre-tribulation rapture, and you know what? Don't put God in a box. When he took 70 Shemitahs away from Daniel and the children went into captivity in Babylon, Daniel was 14 years old. So now on his 84th birthday, he's like, where you at, God? Where you at, Lord? He delayed 21 days. When Jesus was crucified, no longer was the sacrifice of an animal appropriate, but it took 40 years before the sacrifices stopped, when the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. Don't put God in a box. Whether it's pre-trib, right after the trib, who are we to say? This is, like I said, the parable I'm going to use. We're not shepherds, so I'm going to use something that you can identify with. This is his movie. He's the director, he's the producer. There'll probably be some kind of a twist, like there was when he came the first time, folks. They thought he was going to set up a kingdom. Instead, he went to the slaughter as a... And can we change his mind? Yes, the Lord's mind can be changed. You know, he repented, he made man. And Moses, he told Moses, he said, we'll just wipe out the line of Abraham. We'll start with the line of Moses. And oh, please, Lord, they'll say that you brought him in the desert to let them die. And Moses changed the Lord's mind. Jesus' mind was changed. You know, he came for the house of Israel. When he sent the disciples out, he said, don't go to the Gentiles, go to the house of Israel. When the Samaritan lady came to him, he said, I'm not here for you. And she begged, she says, Master, even the dogs get the crumbs. And he changed his mind and he healed her child. We can change the Lord's mind. He tells us in 2 Corinthians 7:11, and I know you've heard this before, if my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land. Folks, if our land ever needed healed right now, step up, try to get a hold of heaven. Let's try to change his mind here. This thing could be written a different way. You know, when they chose Barabbas over Jesus, if they would have chose Jesus, he would have set his kingdom up. That he wouldn't have been crucified then. At some point, maybe down the road, because all scripture will be fulfilled, but there would have been a delay. And he's telling us right here, we could make a delay. We could have our land healed. But what do we do? If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. Who's got to turn from their wicked ways? The senators, Obama? No. Christians. He's talking to my people. Yes. That's who's got to turn from their wicked way. You know who you are out there. Oh boy. Folks, write a letter to your congressman on this same-sex marriage thing. Do something. Watch the hand of God move. You know, he never does anything unless we do it first. You know, he'll heal you, but he wants you to go dip 7 times first. He'll make you walk again, but you got to take your bed up and walk first. You have to be proactive. Get proactive. Let's get our land healed. Chuck Holler, YouTubers, signing off.